I want you to start by doing something for me. Just close your eyes for a second.
Unless you're driving, obviously.
Right, right. Please keep your eyes on the road if you're behind the wheel. But if you can, just visualize the ocean.
And we don't mean the postcard version either.
No, exactly. Not the place where you park your car, get a sticky ice cream cone, and just sort of sit under a striped umbrella.
Get completely away from those vacation vibes.
Yeah, I want you to picture the heavy, rolling weight of it. The dark water. The way it just heaves against the shore.
The sheer volume.
The sheer volume, yes. Because today, we aren't talking about water as just a resource or, a place to swim. We're talking about the ocean as a living, breathing entity.
It's interesting you use the word breathes, actually, because that shifts the perspective immediately.
Yeah.
We usually objectify the ocean. We treat it like it's just a thing.
Right.
But the text we are deep diving into today really challenges us to look at it as they call it a consciousness of liquidity.
Consciousness of liquidity. I mean, I love that phrase. It sounds a great indie band name, but it's also a incredibly heavy concept. We're looking at a stack of research today that covers mythology, psychology, and what I guess you could almost call aquatic metaphysics.
That's a good way to put it.
And it all centers on this one universal archetype, the mother of the ocean.
And before anyone tunes out thinking this is just going to be about mermaids or goddesses in togas.
Yeah, let's be clear about the mission here.
This is about understanding the womb before form.
Which is really just a fancy way of saying we're looking at where things come from, the origin.
Precisely. Because we live in a world that loves straight lines.
Yeah.
We love solid structures, logic, clear boundaries.
Sure.
But this archetype represents the intelligence that moves in cycles. It's about that messy, fluid, highly powerful state before things get solidified.
So let's just unpack this right from the start.
Yeah.
The source material begins by grounding us in history, or rather mythic history, I should say. And it makes this really compelling point that while different cultures have different names for this mother figure, they're actually just describing different layers of the exact same energy field.
It's like looking at a diamond from different angles. You see different facets, but it's the same stone.
Exactly.
And the text specifically highlights three major figures here: Tiamat, Yemaya, and Thalassa. And the order they present them in is actually really important.
Yeah, it felt very much like a progression to me when I was reading it. So we start with Tiamat. Now, in the ancient Mesopotamian myths, Tiamat is usually the villain, right?
Right.
She's the giant monster the hero has to slay to build the world.
In the later interpretations of those myths, yes, absolutely. But originally, Tiamat represents saltwater chaos. And we really need to pause on that word chaos.
Because, and I'm guessing I'm not alone here, when I hear chaos, I usually think of my kitchen after a dinner party.
The total mess.
A total mess. I think disorder. I think something inherently bad or stressful.
And that's the modern sort of sanitized interpretation. But in this context, in the ancient mythic context, chaos isn't disorder. It's potential.
Potential.
Yes, it's the state before creation. So you have to think of Tiamat not as a scaly monster, but as the cosmic soup.
The raw material.
Exactly. She is the terrifying, overwhelming vastness that exists before any rules or structures are put in place. She's the battery pack of the universe, essentially.
That's a wild way to think about it.
Think about that feeling you get when you look at the open ocean at pitch black night and you feel a little scared.
Oh, terrified.
Right. That's Tiamat, that visceral reaction. It's the womb before form in its most primal, completely undifferentiated sense.
Which feels totally different from the next figure they bring up, Yemaya.
Completely different vibe.
Yeah.
Yemaya comes from the Yoruba tradition, and she is the maternal ocean.
Okay.
So if Tiamat is the raw, terrifying power, Yemaya is the intentional care. The text describes her specifically as the one who births and protects.
See, this feels much more like the archetype we're used to when we hear the word mother, the nurturer.
She is the nurturer, definitely.
Yeah.
But she's not passive.
Right. She's still the ocean.
Exactly. Yeah. Think of the ocean's buoyancy. Yemaya is the force that rocks the boat. She's the cradle. It's the difference between the ocean that might crush a ship, which is Tiamat, and the ocean that carries you safely to new shores.
And then bringing up the rear, we have Thalassa.
Thalassa is the ancient Greek spirit of the sea, and the source material defines her as the embodied sea.
Embodied being the really key word there, I think.
It completely grounds the concept. Because if Tiamat is the abstract concept of cosmic chaos, and Yemaya is the sort of spiritual concept of mothering and care, Thalassa is the actual wet sand between your toes.
The physical reality of it.
Yes. She is the salt that dries on your skin after a swim. She's the sheer physical manifestation of the water itself.
So bringing it all together, and I think this is where the text gets really, really smart. It argues that you can't just pick one of these to understand the ocean.
No, you can't.
You can't have the mother of the ocean archetype without all three of these layers operating at once.
Exactly. And think about how that applies to practically anything we create or experience in life.
How do you mean?
Well, you need the primal chaos, that Tiamat energy, just to have the raw material, the spark of potential.
Okay.
But then you need the maternal stewardship, the Yamaya energy, to actually nurture that raw material into something. And finally, you need the physical presence, the thalassa energy, to make it real and tangible in the world.
It's a synthesis. Primal chaos, maternal protection, and physical presence.
Exactly.
But the text doesn't just stay in the history books, which I appreciated. It pivots pretty hard into the human mind.
It makes a massive shift from myth straight into psychology. And honestly, this is where the rubber really meets the road for us.
Yeah.
Psychologically speaking, the mother of the ocean represents the unconscious mind.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
When people hear the unconscious, they usually go straight to Freud. They think of this dark, scary basement full of repressed memories, trauma, and just stuff we don't want to look at.
Our shadows.
Yeah, it sounds like a place you actively want to avoid.
That is absolutely the common fear. We treat the unconscious like a haunted house in our own heads.
Exactly.
But the source material challenges that framework directly. It reframes the unconscious, not as pathology, not as sickness or brokenness, but simply as vastness.
Not pathology, but vastness. I actually highlighted that 3 times in my notes. It changes the whole game.
It really does.
It's not that there's something wrong with you deep down. It's just that there's a lot of you deep down.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it. It's a fertile state. It's where creativity, deep intuition, and profound emotion actually bubble up from.
Right.
If we view the unconscious as the ocean, it's not a scary basement where you hide things. It's a generative field. It's where the nutrients are.
But hanging out in the deep end isn't always easy either.
No, it's not.
The text lists very specific emotions that are governed by this archetype. Things like attachment, grief, longing, devotion. Those are heavy hitters.
Very heavy.
Those aren't the, I'm having a pretty nice Tuesday kind of feeling.
Oh, no, they are the tidal feelings. And that leads to one of the most practical, I think, concepts in this entire deep dive. Tidal love.
Let's really dig into that, because in our culture, especially in romantic relationships or family dynamics, we value consistency above almost everything else.
We do?
We want love to be the solid block of concrete. We want the happily ever after, static, unchanging image.
We want the high tide to just stay high forever.
Yes.
But the mother of the ocean archetype teaches us that this is actually impossible. And not just impossible, but unhealthy. The text says this kind of deep love pulls, releases, and returns.
It sounds a bit like describing an anxious attachment style, doesn't it? That constant pushing and pulling.
It could definitely sound like that if you're viewing it through a lens of fear. But think about a real ecosystem. If the tide never went out, the intertidal zone would die. The creatures that live there rely on that rhythm. Stagnation is death.
Wow, yeah.
The lesson here is that movement is absolutely necessary for health. Tidal love means accepting that true connection has natural rhythms. There are times of intense closeness, the high tide, and there are times of recession or needing space.
And the recession doesn't mean the ocean has completely left the planet.
Exactly. That's the anxiety talking, thinking it's gone forever. The ocean hasn't left. The tide has just gone out. It will return.
Which naturally leads to this concept of surrender that the text brings up. It talks about surrender without erasure.
Yes.
Now, surrender is a really tough word for a lot of us. It sounds like losing. It sounds like giving up all your power and control.
In a battle, yes, surrender is defeat. But in the water, surrender is just physics.
Physics.
It's buoyancy. Think about being caught in a riptide. If you fight it, if you stay totally rigid and try to swim directly against that current, what happens?
You drown, you exhaust yourself, and you go under.
Right. But if you surrender to the water, if you just let yourself float and move with the current until you can safely swim parallel to the shore, you are supported.
You're working with it.
You are still you.
Yeah.
You haven't been erased. But you are moving with a power that is far greater than yourself.
So being claimed by this archetype, as the source puts it, means feeling those deep things, like that grief or that intense longing, but staying fluid within them.
Precisely. It means allowing the emotions to wash through you rather than building a concrete dam to try and stop them.
Which usually breaks anyway.
Always. It's about capacity. Can you be vast enough to hold your own profound grief and your own wild joy without breaking?
That is a seriously high bar, but it makes total sense. And it
No.
segues perfectly into the symbolism they discuss, which I found really striking because it's not all gentle, nurturing waves.
No, no.
The text explicitly calls the ocean mother a totality of nourishment and abyss.
It's the ultimate paradox. Life literally comes from the ocean, but the ocean can also swallow you whole without a second thought.
And symbolically, the text links this to the dissolution of identity. This is the scary part for most people. We spend our whole life building up these identities.
Layer by layer.
Right, I am an architect, I am a parent, I am the smart one in my family. We build these elaborate sandcastles of who we think we are.
We do. We calcify them. We turn those sandcastles into stone walls because they make us feel safe. If I have a label, I know exactly who I am and where I fit.
Exactly.
But the ocean, this archetype of absolute depth, views those stone walls as obstructions.
So the function of the ocean is to just knock down our walls, because honestly, that sounds incredibly rude.
It feels rude. When it happens in real life, it feels like a massive crisis.
An identity crisis.
Exactly. But the text argues it's absolutely necessary. If we stay trapped inside those hard, rigid identities, we become stagnant. We stop growing. The ocean dissolves the rigid parts of us so that something truer, something more authentic can emerge.
The text uses some very specific elemental metaphors to explain how this demolition work actually happens. Let's run through them because they are really evocative.
Let's do it.
First up is salt.
Salt is fascinating here because it's primarily a preserver. Think about the ancient world. Salt was how you kept meat from rotting.
Right.
So when the text says the ocean salts us, it means it strips away the decay. It dissolves the superficial stuff, the fragile ego, the pretenses, the masks we wear, and preserves only what is absolutely essential. It's a purification process.
Then we have waves. The text says, waves erase and rewrite.
This goes right back to your sandcastle analogy. The wave comes in and wipes the sand completely clean.
The slate is blank again.
Yes, it erases the footprints of yesterday. It allows for a fresh start. It represents the cycle of constant revision in our lives. You are never permanently stuck with the story you wrote yesterday because the wave allows you to write a brand new one today.
What about storms? The quote is, storms cleanse stagnation.
This is the more violent side of the archetype. Sometimes our lives just get too still.
We get comfortable.
We get very comfortable. But deep down beneath the surface, the water is actually losing oxygen. Things are dying down there. A storm churns everything up. It brings vital nutrients from the deep floor right up to the surface.
So that brutal breakup or that sudden job loss, the storm in your life, is actually the ecosystem trying to reoxygenate itself.
That is exactly the perspective shift the text is encouraging. It feels entirely destructive in the moment, obviously, but fundamentally it's bringing new life energy into a completely stagnant system.
And finally, after the storm passes, we have calm waters.
Calm waters cradle reflection.
That's poetic.
It is, and it's functional. You can't see your reflection in boiling, churning water. You need the deep calm after the storm to actually integrate what just happened to you. It's the mirror.
It's a mechanism for transformation. The dissolution leads directly to clarity.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the metaphysical layer of this whole text. And I have to say, this is where the source material blew my mind a little bit.
We're definitely moving to the deep end of the pool now.
The phrase that immediately jumped out at me is emergence through immersion.
Emergence through immersion. It's a incredibly profound principle.
It sounds like the exact opposite of how we usually try to fix things or create things in the modern world. Usually we try to force it. We want the sudden spark. We want the big bang of inspiration.
Right. Our culture is completely obsessed with fire energy.
Hustle culture.
Exactly. The spark, the ignition, the hustle, the certain light bulb insight. We think all creation has to be an explosion.
But this text says, no, that's not how the really deep stuff works at all.
It offers a complete counter-narrative. It insists that true, lasting creation does not begin with fire. It begins with depth. It begins with the water.
The womb before form.
Yes. Think about it in terms of doing deep work or trying to learn a complex new skill. You can't just spark fluency in a new language. You can't just explode into being a master pianist overnight.
You literally have to drown yourself in it.
You have to immerse. You have to willingly enter that formless field where you frankly don't know the answers yet. You have to sit in the confusion. The text describes the ocean as a generative field. All forms eventually arise from this field, but you have to be brave enough to stay in it.
It reminds me of writer's block. You stare at the blank page and you just panic. You want the fire of inspiration right now. But the mother of the ocean archetype says, just sit there. Let the water slowly rise.
And trust that the structure will emerge from the liquidity. It's actually remarkably similar to quantum physics, this idea of a quantum field from which particles just pop in and out of existence. The potentiality always comes first.
And the text emphasizes that this isn't just a cold, lonely, abstract void you're sitting in. It says this field is experienced relationally.
That's the vital key to this whole philosophy. It says you experience it as presence, as embrace, as source.
Like you're being held.
It is a holding environment. When you immerse yourself in a difficult subject, or in a profound emotion, or in a messy creative process, you are entering that mother field. You aren't just flailing alone in the void. You are being held by the very source of the idea.
That reframes the creative struggle entirely. It's no longer a battle to be won. It's a gestation period.
Precisely. It requires trusting that underlying intelligence that moves in cycles. Trusting that if you allow yourself to dissolve into the work will eventually emerge through you.
So let's zoom out and look at the map of where we've been today, because we've covered a ton of ground, or water, I guess I should say.
We started with the mythic masks, Tiamat, the Maya, Thalassa. We saw that you need the raw chaos, the maternal care, and the physical body to make the archetype complete.
Then we dove into the psychology. We looked at the unconscious not as some scary basement to avoid, but as a fertile ocean. We talked about tidal love, the idea that true connection pulls and releases, and that's actually exactly how it should be.
Then we explored the symbolism of salt, waves, and storms, how the ocean naturally dissolves our hard identities and our rigid ego structures so that we don't become permanently stagnant.
And finally, we landed on the metaphysics of emergence through immersion. This idea that real, profound creation takes depth and immense patience, not just a quick spark of fire.
It really is a comprehensive look at how fluidity operates or should operate in our lives.
There is one line in the text that I think just brilliantly sums up the relationship between us and this archetype. It says, "She is not separate from the one who feels her. The tide moves because there is something to receive it."
That is a beautiful reminder of reciprocity. We so often think of archetypes or nature in general as things way out there, separate from us.
Right.
But this suggests we are the shoreline. The ocean literally needs the shore to express its tide. The depth needs our human consciousness to be felt and realized.
We aren't just passive observers in this, we're active participants. The ocean is inside us just as much as it is outside us.
And that implies a real responsibility on our part to keep our internal waters moving, to consciously not let ourselves calcify.
Which brings us to the end of our deep dive today, and I want to leave you with a specific thought to mull over.
It's a good one.
We talked a lot today about the ocean dissolving hard identity. It's a very nice poetic idea on paper, but it is incredibly tough in practice. It hurts to let go of who we think we are.
It is arguably the hardest part of the human experience.
So here is the question for you, listening right now. If the ocean mother represents the dissolution of rigid identity to allow for renewal, wait, no, I shouldn't say it like that. Let me rephrase. If she represents breaking down those walls so you can renew yourself, what hard identity are you holding on to right now?
Is it the identity of the one who is always in control? Is it the victim? Is it the one who never, ever needs help from anyone?
What is that stone wall in your mind that makes you feel safe, but is actually just keeping you totally stagnant? And what would happen if you finally let the tide come in and wash it away?
Are you willing to let the wave erase the sandcastle? Or are you going to just stand there trying to defend it against the entire ocean?
Something to really think about the next time you're near the water, or even just standing in the shower. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Until next time, keep it fluid.